G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Have you heard the latest development in the Barnaby Joyce heat wave drought? There's 1 million dead fish floating in the Darling River out where Barnaby Joyce advised the nation back when he was the Minister for Agriculture, the minister in charge of the Murray-Darling Basin Water Reallocation Plan. Barnaby Joyce assured us that you can't go listening to climate scientists, you can't go listening to environmental scientists, because he said if you go listening to them, you wouldn't ever get anything done in this country. Last week I crunched the numbers on 2018 and discovered that we missed out on 34% of our rain in 2018 here in New England. That is, since in December 2017, when we had got our above our average rainfall, the electorate of New England decided to return Barnaby Joyce at a by-election and let him go back to being Minister for Agriculture and Minister for sucking the water and the life out of the Murray-Darling Basin. And what happened then? The rain just chopped off here in Barnaby Joyce's electorate, the place where the people put him back into power. So we lost 34% of our rain, 540 mils instead of 830 mils. Pretty much everywhere else that's hurting because of the drought in 2018 in the eastern seaboard of New South Wales around, yeah, they've lost maybe 15% of their rain. We've got hit twice as hard. So I decided, in view of the fact that the IPCC is still claiming that we can hold global warming to 1.5 degrees by 2100 on a planetary basis, I decided to consider what's happened right here since I started writing down my minimum and maximum daily temperatures on the calendar, and that means going back to 2007. And to make the previous video, I crunched these numbers, and today I've decided to graph them because they're just so very interesting. Bearing in mind that for the past 2 days, ABC Radio National has been telling us that according to CSIRO and the Bureau of Meteorology, Australia has already seen 1.6 degrees of global warming. We've seen 1.6 here as a country. Let's see what we've seen right here as an electorate, with Barnaby Joyce representing us, or getting us to send him to Canberra so that he can make a mess of the environment and the ecology and the biosphere of the planet, because that's what he's been doing ever since we put him there. For those of you who may have forgotten or missed the first video, these rainfall records translate to this graph showing your highest monthly average rainfall figures and your lowest monthly average rainfall figures, giving you in green what you can expect as an average for the year. How much rain can you expect in January or February or March or April or May or June or July? And that horrible orange line there, that was 2018. And if we translate the green of an average year and we compare that with 2018, what we actually got, that's how we come to miss out on about a foot of what we could expect in an average year. So now, using an old calendar and the writings therein, collected in this location in a ventilated, insulated, maximum, minimum thermometer hanging at head height on the south side of a tree in the forest. So these are temperatures as experienced by the forest. Not on a bald, bare, flat, shaven paddock, not in a concrete, steel, glass, tar macadam heat island either. This is what the forest experiences. And this is what you get. Graphing your 31 days along the bottom with your temperatures up the side and each day's range marked in blue for December 2007. During the Millenial Drought, which did not end until December 2009. So this was a drought year, and at the time everybody thought it was horrible and terrible and the worst they could ever remember. We received 83.2 millimetres of rain. Minimum temperature of 0, max of 28, average minimum 13.2, average maximum 22.7. The highest minimum was 17 degrees and that happened once. The highest maximum was 28 degrees and that happened once. So, guess who's now going to take to the page with a red pen? And the 2018 calendar for December 2018, a decade down the track, 11 years later. And then turn this through that and we see this. Thus permitting an old warbler to perhaps draw a few interesting conclusions. In 2007 we got 756 millimetres instead of the 830 we expected. So for a year we were 8.9% below average, which is not actually too bad. Back in the Millenial Drought, when everybody thought that we'll all be ruined because Hanrahan said so. And in December we got 83.25 millimetres of rain. In December, in the Barnaby Joyce heatwave drought, we got 89 millimetres of rain. So some people would say, oh, look, see, we're better off because of Barnaby. However, over the year, we missed out 34.3%. So that means that 2018 was actually nearly 4 times drier than 2007 as a year, comparing two droughts, the Barnaby Joyce heatwave drought versus this one. And then just sort of feast your eyes on these numbers. Yeah, the minimum temperature stayed the same. The maximum went from 28 to 33. That's up 5 degrees. The average minimum went from 13.2 to 14.2, up 1 degree, which is up by 7.5%. The average maximum went up by 5 degrees from 22.7 to 27.7. Up 5 degrees, which is up 22%. The highest minimum went from 17 to 18, up 1 degree, which is up 5.8%. All told, what we're looking at is the average minimums up by 1 degree, the average maximums up by 5 degrees. You add those two, get 6 degrees, divide by 2, you get 3 degrees on average hotter in 2018 than it was in 2007. That's 14.75% hotter and nearly 400% drier for the year. The year's nearly 400% drier. The month, yeah, the month was just a little bit wetter. The month was 6.6 millimetres extra this year compared to 11 years ago. So looked at as a month, this December was 7.92% wetter than December of 2007. But being 14%, nearly 15% hotter, and here's the thing. December 2018, we had 15 days that was 28 degrees or hotter. Go back a decade, there was only one day that got to be 28 degrees at all. When you look at the number of hot days we had this December compared to a decade ago, saying that on average it was 14.75% hotter this December, 3 degrees hotter. Yeah, kinda. You might be missing out on something because we had a whole lot more really hot days. We didn't just have one 28-degree day in the month, we had 15 of them that were over 28 or 28 or above. Okay, so here in New England, Barnaby Joyce's electorate, I've demonstrated we've got 3 degrees of global warming going already, and that's just over the last 11 years. The International Governmental Panel on Climate Change suggests that there's some hope of holding global warming to 1.5 degrees in 80 years' time. Here in this part of Australia, we've already gone beyond 3 degrees. The whole of Australia, Bureau of Meteorology and CSIRO, is admitting that Australia has already achieved 1.6 degrees. And this has been brought to us by a succession of Liberal, National, Labor governments who have consistently campaigned on making electricity cheaper, on digging up more fossil fuels and exporting them and burning them, because that makes jobs in the Australian economy. And now Barnaby Joyce, the Minister for Agriculture, the Deputy Prime Minister, and the Minister for sucking water out of the Murray-Darling Basin under the Abbott government and under the Turnbull government, the bloke who said you can't listen to environmental scientists because if you paid any attention to them, you wouldn't get anything done. He's gone silent. 1 million fish are dead. Some of the cod out there that they're showing on TV, 50-kilogram cod. Some of these fish that are dying are 100 bloody years old. There's 1 million of them dead. And this is only a couple of months after Barnaby Joyce was trying to resurrect his political career by suggesting that water be taken away from the environmental flows and given to the irrigators to grow cattle feed because his mates who were growing moo cows were having a hard time buying fodder. This is the Barnaby Joyce who stood up there on his hind legs and several times blocked the allocation of environmental flows because he wanted his mates in the irrigation industry to be able to suck the water and the life out of the river and stockpile it in dams and grow cotton. Well, yahoo yippee, congratulations Barnaby, you've had a 20-year career being a politician, and what you've done is you have destroyed the Australian ecology. You personally, Barnaby Joyce, and everybody who ever voted for you. What a bunch of scumbags. You deserve everything that goes wrong in your life, Barnaby. Everything. You've brought it on yourself. You have brought this misery on everybody who depends on the Australian environment that you have destroyed with your worldview and your greedy, graspy EcoGnomie. This is what you have wrought, Barnaby Joyce. This is the alleged prosperity that you have bestowed upon that poor little bastard of a son that you spawned. Why don't you just go and smash his head in with a claw hammer? Save him the trouble of waiting for a hailstone or dying of thirst in the drought or getting cooked in the bushfires that you have unleashed onto his environment. Barney Baby Joyce, you vandalistic scumbag. But anyway, enough of bashing Barney Baby Joyce. Because though he's an evil-minded, selfish arsehole, he's not the only one. And the universe runs on perfect liberty and perfect responsibility. And perfect liberty means absolute freedom, and that includes the freedom to pick wrong. And Barney Baby Joyce has picked wrong his entire career. And the bit that I'm shitty about is that his pickings for the last 20 years have apparently killed the forest that I've spent the last 28 years paying the rates on and trying to keep alive. But there's a funny thing about social collapse. The further out on the fringe you live from the high society, the less you're affected when it all falls apart. So Barnaby Joyce and the arseholes who voted for him, they have no hope. At least my kids might survive. For a while, anyway. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Such is life. Ciao.